Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of your new favorite pop culture podcast, The Random Hour by Kyle Crump. Which, as you can see, he's not here with me today. As always, he disappears. He didn't get fired, so I always get left alone. I got somebody new in the passenger seat, and I'm going to give him the floor to introduce himself.
Everyone, my name is Dan Brown. Perhaps you've seen me on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram. You probably haven't, but perhaps you have. You may have seen me on Dry Bar Comedy. Again, may have, probably haven't. But I am from Cleveland, Ohio, and I am happy to be here on the Random Hour podcast.
Oh, man, Dan, thanks for coming on. And yes, everybody, I finally achieved it. This is actually a little behind the scenes joke between me and Kyle. I finally booked my first comedian. And as everybody knows, a part of this show, I also do comedy myself. So it's going to be pretty cool to sit down and learn a different comedian style because obviously, as we both know, Dan, everybody does it different.
Yep, it's a beautiful thing about
So
comedy.
it is. And I've got some, and we'll share some crazy road stories I got no problem sharing with you that people will not believe. But yeah. So my first question for you, Dan, is what got you into comedy?
So it's a series of failed dreams and broken dreams at the same time. This also being a dream. um, I have always loved stand-up comedy, like ever since I was a kid. I don't know how old you are, Devin, but I'm 37. And when I was in middle school, I found on Comedy, like I discovered Comedy Central and the 30-minute
Uh,
Comedy Central Presents, and thought these were some of the best things on television. My initial dream was to actually become a WWE superstar. However, I was misdiagnosed with a heart condition when I was 18, and
oof.
that kind of killed my weightlifting and wrestling dreams. Years later, I would pick up weightlifting again, and then years later find out I never had the heart condition. But it was, after that, I picked up with the guitar. I tried being a rock star. Didn't work out. And one thing was always like, hey, I do think I want to try stand-up comedy eventually. And eventually what happened was I watched An Evening with Kevin Smith a million times. And
Ooh, yeah.
and if you know anything about An Evening with Kevin Smith, it's like a 4 hour long episode, whatever you want to call it, movie, whatever you want, presentation. And I watched this guy who I'm a huge fan of and went, this guy dresses like me, this guy talks like me, this guy talks about the same crap that I talk about, like comic books and movies. I was like, and with no disrespect saying this, I'm like, well, why can't I do that kind of thing?
And yeah. And that's what me and some of my buddies I do shows with, they're like, yeah, like literally, like you said, like literally, I can go to a show right now, and I know you can't really see it, but like I'll go to shows and like anime T-shirts, ball cap, and I'm just chilling. I'm like, this is nice. I don't have to do no like I don't have to look, I don't have to look a certain way. I don't have to, walk out with a flaming guitar on my back. I'm just like I'm just gonna sit here and just talk
Yeah.
for
And
15 minutes.
and as you continue to do comedy, I'm just going to say there's certain aspects that are also going to change. Like for the longest time, every time I went on stage, I had a button-up T-shirt.
Uh,
A little bit down, and then that changed to having a button-up with either a Batman or a Superman T-shirt underneath, and like it opened just
uh,
enough so people can see like so I'm dressed on a more professional scale, but also with a little bit of fun. And then that led to if you saw my dry bar comedy video, I eventually it's like jeans, long button-up shirt with a vest and a tie, and usually the tie
mm,
was nice, but I would have like a Superman clip or my Batman clip with it or something. That then led to me wearing t-shirts kind of like or shirts kind of like this, where it's just kind of plain, give them nothing to look at, long sleeves go down, to where now I'm just like wearing a hoodie. And I have the same hoodie too. So if you if you look at any of my videos online, like the stuff I'm putting out now, it's like, man, does this dude wear any other outfits on stage? No, that's my that is my stage outfit every single time.
Oh no, I agree with you. My go-to, and you probably seen some of my clips. It's of that long sleeve red Land United thing. It's as bland as from far away you can't really see the Land United logo on
Yeah,
the shirt. So, but the hat's just a comfort thing. It's just an anxiety thing. Like everybody likes it when I'm not wearing the one that I posted. The Land United red hat. A lot of people like that, especially when I had the long shaggy hair. I'm just like, oof,
I
I
will
look
I
like a
will
disabled.
occasionally yeah, I will wear hats
Go ahead.
myself. If you can tell, I'm kind of a hat collector, especially when I'm on the road. I like to collect minor league baseball team hats. Um,
Nice.
yeah, and so this is a comfort thing too, because if I'm not on stage with my hair, I'm going to say done because it's a little bit longer. I have to actually do it. Um, If I'm not on stage with my hair done, it's because I'm wearing a hat.
Well, another thing too, I forget where I was, but there was one show I didn't wear a hat, and I'm just pouring sweat. And I'm
Mhm.
like, dude, another reason why I wear it, I'm like, I'm sitting there talking. As I'm talking, I just feel the sweat down my brow. I was like, this is great. I'm just giving a show, and I'm just sweating like a hooker in church. This is great. And now I'm just like, one, the hat's for an anxiety thing, and now it's like it's catching on my sweat because I'll be done doing sets, and I'll just take my hat off, and I'm like, geez, Louise, the brim is wet.
So to help with anxiety too, there's two things that I
Uh,
do. I either hold the microphone. Let me see what I got here. I got a tripod here, so I'll just with a light thing that's burnt out. Like let's say this is the
yeah.
microphone. I'll hold it down here, kind of like this. This way, I'm not clamping,
Uh,
and like because you really want to like when you're holding the microphone. Again, this is a preference thing. If I do have to hold it up here, I hold it just like that, and I keep these fingers loose because that prevents
yeah.
my hands from clamping up. And then that prevents the rest of my body from tightening up because
Yeah.
that just your aura that people can see or can tell. It's like this guy just kind of seems uncomfortable. This at least keeps you a little bit loose on stage too.
Yeah.
So
No, one thing that's helped me is this is just a standard mic,
yeah,
standard little podcast mic, and it's just helped me doing this. And I just like you said, I just naturally just loose grip, but loud
yeah,
enough where people can hear me. Because when I first started, I'm sure we all done it. You're dead gripping, and then you're way out here because you think the microphone can pick you up,
yeah.
and then you got like the promoter, or the sound guys like sitting there doing. I'm gonna get hypnotized for this. He's like,
Yeah.
do this. And the sound guy's like, dude, for like a good 2 minutes, I was doing that. Looks like I'm sucking pee pee. Like,
Yeah,
come
as
on.
he's doing that, it's like, I'm not doing that with you.
I'm
Yeah,
not, bro. Chill. No, bro, put it up to your. And I started paying more attention to that. I was like, oh, yeah, it's right here. Right
yeah.
to their, right to their chin. But
I
I,
I'm not going to mention the comedian's name because I still consider him a friend, even though I haven't talked to him
uh,
in many years. Um, when he was new, he would get so nervous so fast. His microphone would start right here during his set. And as the set would go on and he's bombing, it slowly started going down
oh,
to
yeah,
like
yes.
to where you couldn't
I've
even
done
hear
that
him
too.
anymore. Yeah, and you couldn't even hear the guy anymore. And it's like we tried to tell him a couple of times, and he was such a nice guy, and I truly do miss talking to this guy and hanging out with him. But like he just starting out was not good, and
Mm,
nothing you can do about it. And those mics can just really get in your head and mentally and whatnot. He never realized every single time he would start here, drift off here, and it's like, dude, we couldn't even hear you if we wanted to, you know.
yeah. No, I've done that. I used to do that when I first started open mics, when I started bombing. I used to do that too, where I'm just like, okay, I'm going home. I'm like, I'm going home. I'm sure you've done it too, where you're like, I'm not, and I'm sure you've done that too, where you're just like, I'm not good at this. I'm going home and I'm eating my Batman waffles and I'm not coming out of my room.
For me, it's ice cream. It's ice cream for me.
Yeah,
That's my go-to
the
when
ice
I'm feeling
cream.
shitty.
And what kills me is those long rides home. And then there's been some sets where I've recorded. I'm like, dude, that was brutal. And then I'll go back and edit the clips or whatever, and I'll go back and rewatch it. I was like, oh, it ain't that bad. Because I
Yeah,
feel like as comedians, we're our biggest critics.
absolutely. Absolutely, dude. I can't tell you how many times I'm calling my wife after a show. I'm like, this is just fucking bullshit. And I'm mad
Oh, I've
about
done
it.
that too.
And then like the next day, it's like we get a message like, "Oh, they really enjoyed you," and I was like, "I didn't enjoy them." You know,
Yeah, because you're like, that wasn't fun.
yeah. Well,
Uh,
it's and part of me thinks that I understand why some people are like that, like you and I in that aspect, because we truly want to be as perfect as possible on stage. Like we're doing this to make people feel happy, to feel joy, to at least temporarily forget about some of the crap that's going on in their life. I also get the aspect of some people that just went, hey, that was pretty good. And even though it may not have been, just trying to stay positive or, it could just be delusion,
yeah.
whatever it is. I also get that as well.
Hey, you want me to tell you about a funny story about a mic? I've got two funny open mic stories. This has happened. Actually, I won't tell the second one. The first one, the next show I'm getting ready to do is at our favorite little local spot. It's at a nice little pizza joint. Holds about 60 people. We sell it out every time, but we're doing a free show to thank the community because the community just loves it. And we did an open mic night, And you know how open mic some nights are. You're gonna try all new jokes, and
Sure.
I was just bombing. I was just all the new stuff just did not hit with that crowd. And somebody just yelled, "Thank God this is free!" And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, I know, right? Thank God you're gonna say that the little limpy comedian wasn't even fucking funny.
Yeah.
And the crowd just cried laughing. I was like,
Yeah.
seriously. And then after that, I just converted my stuff that works, and I was just like, and the promoter and one of my other buddies that I drive with, he's like, "Why'd you go to your stuff that normally works halfway through?" I was like, "Dude, I was just bombing," and that guy just like said something, and I just said, "Fuck it," I just fuck it.
So
I just
when I first started doing stand up, it was like my sixth or seventh show in. The
uh,
college I was going to had a stand up comedy contest, and most people were like me. They've either done it a couple of times or have never done it before. And they actually had a really good turnout for it. It was like 150, maybe even 200 kids at some point, like come out to
mm,
watch the show. And I legitimately got booed off stage by
damn,
a group of my peers, and it was without a doubt the worst day of my life. And
wow.
that was 15 years ago.
Yeah, I've had like I did one show, and another reason why I wear shorts because I mean obviously we're sitting down, you can't tell. I do kind of walk with a limp because I'm like, okay, I'm a disabled comic, and
Hmm.
you can't really see it wearing pants. So I'm like, damn, I gotta wear shorts because it just shows it off. If I take a couple steps, 2 or 3 steps, people will see it and they're like, okay, yeah, he's disabled. I remember one time I wore pants and I was doing my regular stuff, and somebody just yelled, "Really?"
Yeah,
I was like, "Yeah, I'm a disabled comedian." They're like, "Really? I can't tell." And everybody in
yeah.
the club just looked at me. I was like, "Oh, I'm bombing here." I'm just like, "Ooh, that was a rough night."
Well,
I had
if
two
you
of my buddies
talk
come
about
with
being
me.
disabled and they don't actually know you're disabled or can't tell, it's no longer funny. They're no longer laughing with you. They're kind of like, man, this guy's just a jerk. Like
Yeah, that's
always
where it
talking to
was.
people
That's
like
how that
that. Yeah.
Atlanta. Yeah, that was in Atlanta. That Atlanta crowd. Oh man, dude. I Atlanta is so competitive, but it's truly a tough crowd to where you can like hone your skills. And you've probably seen that up in the Midwest or in the Tampa area as well, in the big
Oh, of
cities.
course.
It's like dude, these. I was like, this is good. Like I need those tough crowds. That way, when I go do these brewery shows, and you got Billy Bob just cracking 4 or 5 big ones before the show, and he's laughing at everything. Like I could sit there and just be like, banana, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, all right, this is easy money.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
You do need that experience. I mean, comedians absolutely need that experience to go through the tough crowds. And let me give you a little bit of a spoiler alert. Tough crowds don't go away. Yeah, you're going to be dealing with them forever. I
yeah.
uh I do a lot of corporates now, and where you go to like companies and whatnot, and they bring in a comedian,
Oof.
and sometimes the money can be really good, but what they don't realize is, so they the person who books me, they turn on Netflix and they see Dave
Mm.
Chappelle, or they see Shane Gillis, or they see Jim Gaffigan, or they see Nate Bargatze, and they go, "Wow, this would be really fun if we bring a comedian in our office." Because what they saw was a special shot over the course of 2 to 4 shows that is edited together.
Really?
Oh yeah, if you ever if and this isn't knocking, it's if you have the money to produce it, especially these major names, you can occasionally find where they snipped out certain things. Like there was a Gaffigan special where he goes on stage and he's talking, and you see that he has a corded mic, and then literally that next cut is him holding a wireless mic.
Oh, I
Um,
never. Okay, I got to notice that. I didn't notice
in
that.
one
I
of
thought it was just.
in one of Chappelle's Netflix specials, they cut to a certain angle and you see this white girl just like sitting there, kind of like like that. But then they
Mm,
cut to that angle again, like during the same joke, and it's
mm,
somebody completely different.
wow,
So
that
I
makes
mean,
sense.
again, well, Netflix is also putting $20 million into every Dave Chappelle special. If you think about it, probably more. Like Dave's getting 20 million. When it comes to cost of production and everything like that, they're going to go, "Hey, we're going to make sure we have the absolute best product to put out there," and they shoot it like a TV show where it's okay, multiple takes, go out there, kind of thing. Um,
Oh,
so yeah, so they're watching an hour-long special of a comedian who's had 2 to 4 shows. Usually these are sweetened, meaning the laughter's pumped up a little bit. They'll add a laugh track,
mm,
even if they don't need it, just to give it that little bit of an extra oomph. And it's
really?
also filmed. Yeah, there's especially in the 90s and early 2000s, there you can occasionally you can hear it because technology wasn't as good then. And I mean,
Mm.
it's not obvious because again, these major specials that we're watching, they're getting big laughs already, but some of them had a little bit of an extra oomph added to it. And
Yeah.
on top of that, these comedians are also that they're watching on Netflix. They're either in a comedy club, a theater, or an arena with people who've paid to see them.
Mm.
And these corporate people going, "Wow, I really want Dan Brown to do an hour in front of my office." And I tell them, I'm like, "I'll do the hour. You really only want 30 minutes." And I'm trying to explain, I'm like, everyone at that place has had some kind of alcohol in them or
Yeah.
have had the option to have alcohol in them. Um, Everyone in that arena or theater wants to be there. And then you want
Yeah.
me to come into your office where chances are half the people are just like, I hate my life and I hate my job. And I hate half of these people I'm I'm working with. And
Yeah.
they're overworked, they're underpaid, and then they're bringing me in. And one of the first thoughts that go through all their minds is, how much are they paying this guy? And why couldn't they have given that out for a bonus?
That's oof, noted.
I, I've
Well, and I've
I've
noticed
had
this too.
conversations with people after I've
Uh,
done these, and some people I've just like, hey, just be honest. What are you feeling? And these are the things I'm picking up on, and it's clear. I mean, we're humans. I mean, how many people actually like their jobs?
that's fair.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise. I will say this one thing I learned early on is I like to go first or second. I hate closing out. Like I hate the headliner status
Hmm.
because some people, and I've learned this too. Some people get just tired of laughing. Like they're enjoying your stuff, but their sides hurt, or everybody's crushing it. They're just their laugh box is just they're just tired, and and they're smiling. They are having a good time. They're just tired of laughing. But as a comic on stage, you're like, dude, I am fucking bombing, and I want to go home and eat my ice cream and get in the fetal position and never do this shit again. So
Hmm.
that's just me.
So that is why timing of a show is so important. Um,
Mm.
for and it's one thing for an open mic, it's another thing for like an actual show where people are paying money to come to. Um, you really don't want the comedy show to go longer than 90 minutes. Personally,
Mm.
I think 80 minutes is the perfect cutoff. you know and that's why you see so many of these
Mm.
places, they just do the three-man show and maybe a guest set where, okay, we're bringing out the first comedian, we're bringing out the host, he's going to go up there 10 minutes just to warm you up, to get people in the thing, like, okay, attention's up here, everyone pay attention. It's literally what the previews at the movie theater are for, is
Yeah.
okay, everyone get in their seat, make sure you got your food, everything. It's, even though how many people love watching the previews, how many people are going, oh man, movie's not going to start for another 15 minutes. That's literally what
Yeah.
the mentality is. And then that featured comedian, that middle act that's doing between 20 to 30, I mean, that's really
Mm.
act two, like building you into what's going on. And then the headliner comes in, which in movie status would be like the middle of act two, but going into act three, of course, at the end, like the big close there. It's not a perfect analogy, but you get what I'm saying. And the
Yeah.
thing
No, I
about,
do. Just
yeah,
being in that middle.
yeah, well, that's why I said, like, if I stole this from the former GM at the Cleveland Improv, because he would give comedians advice, and he goes, "Well, what do I know?" He was like, "If I knew how to write a joke, I'd book myself. I'd make myself the highest paid feature of all time." And that's where I'm stealing this from. Where if I knew how to run shows, I'd book myself and I make myself the highest paid feature of all time, because that feature spot is always the best spot. I as somebody
Right.
who's predominantly more and more headlining, and I sometimes I find myself with that imposter syndrome where it's like, man,
Mm.
should I be headlining this? And when and you just self doubt. I that feature spot, man. When you get used to it, that's a great spot to be in. That is awesome. It feels
Really.
good. Oh yeah, because the audience is warmed
I
up at
don't
that
know.
point.
I don't know. Like I said, I feel like I'm also hard on myself sometimes because I'm just
Yeah,
like, especially like down here, we all do shows together, and like people love me. But sometimes I'm like, man, I'm the worst comedian on this court. I was like, let me go first because I'm the worst one. And people are like, even friends that I do stuff with, they're like, dude, you're not a bad comic. You're
yeah.
pretty fucking good. And you probably done. She's like, stop beating yourself up.
So if I can, one of my best friends, actually my very best friend, I should say, He's also a
Mm,
comedian. Uh, we did a show together a couple years ago. He's since moved out of town. Um,
mm.
but we did a show, and it was kind of a rough setting. It was at a church in a basement, and there were 5 and 6 year olds just running around the whole time. And
Oof.
he went up and did 10 minutes before me, and I had to do 50. And
You had to do
and
50?
I did 50. And at the end of it, I'm angry because it's like, man, I just did 50 minutes and all these kids are running around, and I'm like, what am I doing with my life? And he was like, you don't understand how impressive it was that you did what you just did. And he was like, almost nobody else could have actually done what you did that day. Like, because of the situation, of the circumstance and everything. He was like, you did literally as well as anyone could have possibly done. And it feels good to hear someone say that, but it's kind of like that whole oh god, what was that guy's name? He was a motivational speaker. I can't think.
Is the
Black
one
guy.
that's missing an arm? Or is it no, you're talking about dang, his last name's Smith.
I think
Oh
it's
gosh, I can
Brown.
see
I
it.
can't. Uh, it's going to bother me. But he had this story that he would talk about, where it's like some tribe in Africa, if somebody screwed up,
Yep, it's
everyone else in the tribe would motivational speak. Everyone else in the tribe would stand around them for like the next 2 days and tell them what a good person they were and how good of a job they're doing, because that one negative thing, it literally takes, you know, uh, so if somebody tells you you suck, it might take 100 people to tell you that you're good for you to start believing it again.
hands down, yes. Yeah, 100%. Thankful and I'm sure you know this, and I kind of agree with this. Especially any comedian starting out, and maybe somebody in your stature that travels a lot, you got to have a good support system at home.
You do.
You know what I mean?
You do. And it's
And
one of those things we got to understand. And Anthony Jeselnik and I talked about this recently, where it's like we're privileged to do this. Like it truly
mm,
is a privilege to be a stand-up comedian, and you have to take the good with the bad, and you have to take the bad with the good. And like you said, having that support system at home, it is so crucial. Like you need to have somebody who's on board with you doing it. You need somebody that, I mean, there's times my wife will see me like take a gig or something, and she just kind of goes, "Why are you
mm,
taking that gig?" And I'm like, either there's something in me and it's like I have to take this gig, or it's like, yeah, it doesn't seem like it's that good, but so and so's going to be there, so and so's going to be there, so and so's going to be there. So it's not so much a gig as it is an audition.
yeah, it's
And
like
that,
I always view them as networking opportunities because
yeah. And this is, and one of the things that changed my way of thinking about comedy is that you have to view it as every time you do a show, you're essentially auditioning. You're auditioning
okay,
for, if you're at a club, you're auditioning to come back to the club. If you're
mm,
doing a guest set, you're auditioning the host. If you're hosting, you're auditioning to feature. If you're featuring, you're auditioning the headline, or you're auditioning to come back. If you're at an open mic, you're auditioning to the other comedians to be, who might book a show to keep you in consideration. If you're doing
yeah,
a
that's how I
corporate
viewed
gig,
them.
yeah, I mean, if you're doing a corporate gig, you're either auditioning to get a good review, or you're auditioning to come back, or you're auditioning for somebody to go, you know what, I help run a fundraiser, or I help run a nonprofit or something, and we would love to have a comedy show as a fundraiser,
Yeah,
and networking. Does it always happen? No, but it's an audition and it's an opportunity, because again, you never know where some of these things happen. I was doing a show at my home club at the Funny Stop Comedy Club years ago, and there was a I was co-featuring, and
mm,
it was funny how it turned out, because they had a radio personality host the show, and she came on, and she welcomed the audience, she made a couple jokes, and it's a familiar face in the area kind of thing. And then
mm,
she brought on the other uh, co-feature, who went up, he did fine, whatnot. And well, actually, um, he went on, and then they were like, oh, we actually have a special guest in the audience, and they bring out this teenage girl, and he's like, she's going to sing a song. And usually I'm like, what the hell is this? Freaking standing
oh,
ovation. It was like, it was like if you were watching America's Got Talent, like if, the person who's like the disabled veteran who was like their house is
Yeah.
about to be up for foreclosure, and it was like if only there was some way that somebody could like actually, if there's some way this person could save their home and save their family, and then they go on there and they get the golden buzzard and like people are crying in the audience and everyone's clapping. And what they don't show you is that when they film America's Got Talent, there's usually somebody else who goes on after that person. So after they're done like sweeping the confetti, it's like, hey, here's the guy who's throwing like a deck of playing cards through a watermelon.
Yeah. I've
you know?
actually I've auditioned. Again, like you say, auditions, right? Go out past my comfort zone. Early on in my comedy, when I started doing this last year, early on, which I kind of regret, but at the same time, right? I was like, I need to push myself, and I auditioned for America's Got Talent. I did the virtual audition.
Good for you. Good for you. I've went in person back in 2016, I think, or 15. I
Uh huh.
forgot when it was. Yeah, you have to take the opportunity. Absolutely do it.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy? I'll tell you my experience with it. It's fun. I like the way they do it. I'll say this: if anybody wants to audition for them, do the virtual one. If you're not comfortable on stage, do the virtual one. I like how they do it. They put you in a Zoom meeting, but that day they had some technical problems, and one of the executive producers, he kept apologizing like every 2 minutes. It felt like like that. Hey guys, I apologize. We're having some technical issues. Enjoy this clip. And they show clips of the shows or whatever. And he kept apologizing. I was like, okay, well, at least you're apologizing. And then they get you, once they got past the technical issues, they put you in a room of 6 people,
Mm-hmm.
okay, with the Zoom thing. And he's like, and the producer I had, I forget his name, but He's like, I do have a comedian in this group, right? I said, yes, sir, it's me, Devin Moore. He's like, all right, Devin, I'm going to let you go last. And I like the way they did it because everybody all over the country, like you get to watch people perform. Somebody did a cover of George Strait. There was a really good like jazz saxophone player that just shredded it. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
holy cow! And again, I was the last one. He's like, hey Devin, are you PG-13? Are you rated R? I was like, do you want to hear some adult stuff? And that producer just smiled and he's like, yes, hold up. And he kicked everybody out. It was just me and him. And he let me go over because,
That's cool.
they give you 2 minutes. Yeah. They're like, hey, you have 2 minutes. By the way, I rehearsed these jokes. I've said these jokes so many times. He let me go over and it was just a chill conversation.
Right.
But to be honest with you, when I thought back of it, I was still a little nervous, and these jokes were not as well crafted as they are now. Obviously, I didn't get it. You know, obviously, I wish I could sit and say like, "Yeah, hey, I'm going." Obviously, I didn't get it, but now I'm like, "Hey, like you said, I auditioned for something. I feel good. These jokes got crafted better now," and I'm like, "Dude, I'm glad I did it." My wife was proud of me. My wife was like, "Well, I'm proud of you." I was like, "Why?" She's like, "You pushed yourself outside your
Yeah.
comfort zone." She's like, even if you don't get, because again, that day I just auditioned, and they said it takes a couple months, which I get it because it's a process. And she's like, even if you don't get
Mm-hmm.
it, she's like, I'm proud of you because you pushed yourself.
Yeah. I when I auditioned for America's Got Talent, it was an in-person thing. They weren't doing virtual yet, at least that I know of. And I drove to Detroit, just sat pretty much went to the convention hall and sat there for about 6 hours before they finally got to my group.
Yeah,
And they put you in there with a bunch of different people. There was one singer, there was someone else trying to do like a comedy routine, but it wasn't stand up. There was
yeah,
someone else who like tried doing characters. So I mean, you got to see this wide group of people. But the reason I brought up America's Got Talent was, so this girl goes up there, absolutely
uh,
crushes, and I have to make the joke about like, oh God, I did not want to follow that, and
yeah,
immediately I get them on my side because I'm acknowledging like, hey, you remember this teenage girl that everyone just really liked now, and just acknowledge how great she was, and people enjoy that.
mm,
You know, went on with my set, had a really really good set, and afterwards, her parents came up to me, her mom came up to me, and the adults that she was with came up to me, and they're like, hey, we might have something we might need a comedian for a little bit later. Would you be interested? And I was like, yeah, and we traded business cards, and they called me, and I ended up working with them a handful of times on shows where they're like,
nice.
yeah, it was, and they were great shows. um, so again, it was you view it as an opportunity for something.
Yeah. No, I just like how they do their process.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I just enjoyed it from sitting in the. What's funny, I was at our field house because my connection at the time with our internet connection was kind of iffy here at the house. So I was like, and I knew it was going to be a while, so I was just scouting film. I'm just sitting there typing on the computer. I'm like, so they call for me. I'm just sitting and scout breakdown film. And the producer was like, "What do you do for a living?" I was like, right before we hung up, I was like, "Yeah, I coach for a living." He's like, I was like, hey, I'm not gonna lie to you. Until the group stuff started, I started breaking down film the whole time waiting, and he thought that was funny. He's like, wait, you're at work, and he's like, dude, you're breaking down film. I was like, yeah, I was just waiting for my turn,
Yeah,
and he thought that was
you got to do
funny.
something.
But it was so yeah. It was a cool experience for me, and I liked it. So if anybody's like, should I audition? I tell if anybody asks me, I'm like, yeah, go try it. It's not I just like the way they do stuff. I don't know if you've auditioned for any other different TV shows, but my goal is to try to do that this year. Try to audition more in the process, but I just like how America Got Talent did it.
I haven't auditioned for very many shows. I mean, I was on a channel called TBN back in 2022, 22 or
Uh,
23. I think it was 22. But like to be on like an actual like competition show, no, I haven't done that. But it is something I am interested in.
question: can you describe your joke writing process?
Yeah. So it's a little bit of a combination. One thing that I do is, um, and I suggest to people, I'm like, just write and see what happens. Write about your day, write about what you're feeling. If you're not happy, just start the process of writing. The other thing that I do is that I have to, anything that makes me laugh, I write it down and think about it later, because if it's something my kid said, or one of my kids said, or my wife did, or anything like that, or I looked outside my house, and it's one of those things where it's like, okay, if this made me laugh, it might make someone else laugh, kind of thing. um,
Yeah.
and I have a Google Docs of my concepts and ideas. And then
Mm,
what I'll do is, I'll sit down, look at the Google Docs, and I'll start like writing out different ideas for jokes. And then when I think I actually have a good one, I then write it down on a note card. And in the corner, I'll write down like, is this family related, holiday related, sports related, comic book related, whatever, work related. And then I start to categorize it, and I start trying to figure out where that might fit in in a set. And then when
huh.
I eventually will do an open mic, let's say it's 10 minutes and I got 40 minutes worth of ideas, I'll start picking out, okay, well, I think this is the best idea from each one of these things, and this is how it's all
Yeah.
going to flow together in the set.
Yeah, you're like me. I'm similar to that. I'm similar to that as well. I have a Google Doc drive of like my 20-minute set that I've done. If I ever have to do another 20-minute set, I've got it good, ready to go. I know this is 20 minutes because I've rehearsed it. I've used it live. I've got that. And like you said, concepts, right? And I break it down by three things. Well, in the middle is that 20-minute set drive. Like that's never getting deleted. That's my 20 minutes. I know that gets me 20 minutes. I don't have to stress. I don't have to panic, right?
Yeah,
And if I have to do, like you said, if I have to do 30 minutes, guess what? I'm going to take that 20 minutes and then I'm going to add 10 more minutes, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
then I'll give you an example. I've got a show next Friday. I've got 10 minutes. So, like, I'll write out, hey, you're going to the slice, which is where I'm going. You're going to the slice. You've got 10 minutes. And I'll start numbering them one through, which with my delivery, I know 10 minutes is like 10 to 12 jokes. So, like, I'll number them 1 through 12. Like, hey, do this is I'll type them out. I'm like, hey, do this joke 1 through 12. And so, like, as I'm getting ready to write, as I'm getting ready for the show, I just look at it. I try not to go up there with notes, but now with, like you said, with open mics now, and this is also funny. Gets a laugh. And again, this is what my coaching background is. When it comes to open mics, if I'm going to an open mic, I'll write out all the new jokes. I'll put it in a laminator, the little sheet protector. Sorry, the little sheet protector. I'll
yeah,
tuck it into my shorts because if you ever watch a college football coach, they always tuck them in their shorts. I'll tuck it into my shorts. I'll hide it. I'll wear a baggy shirt. I'll hide the set sheet from the audience. I posted this on the internet. It's gotten a good laugh. And sometimes I will forget. The first time I did this, I did forget, and out of habit, I put the sheet protector in my shorts, and I just pulled it out.
yeah,
And people were just dying. And I was dead serious the first time I did this. I was like, what are y'all laughing about? And people were laughing because I pulled out notes from my shorts.
yeah.
And I'm just like, all right, whatever. And people just love that. And I'm like, okay. But
I have
that's
always
my,
taken the stance that notes should not be frowned upon for comedians. And first off, for an open mic, should never be frowned upon because it's an open
yeah.
mic. Testing shit out. You gotta get your stuff in. You gotta figure out what you're doing, and if it's new, you might definitely need your notes to remind you not to forget something. I have
Oh,
been
yeah,
at
100%. I've learned that.
Yeah, I've been at major comedy clubs where I have seen major names just bring a set list out with them. And it's like,
Hmm.
okay, so why is it that the MC and the feature are frowned upon for having notes, but the headliner is given a pass if they're a major name,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And I've also taken the approach of this is a job. How many people in their office don't have notes, pinned up against the walls to remind them of things, or how to do certain processes? Or if you're a college football coach or a high school football coach, how many coaches don't actually have some kind of, you know, clipboard or something
Yeah,
in their
no,
hand with I
no. Oh, dude,
exactly.
trust me.
Everyone's
We
job has notes all over the place.
right. There's one female comedian I've done shows with, and she does a pretty cool job. Or she does something pretty cool. Is she'll take a sheet of paper and she'll put it on
Mm,
the stage with her on the ground, and she can just look at the bottom left corner of her eye. It's pretty impressive. Like she's got it
yeah,
laminated. She tapes it on there way before the show starts, and she just
yeah.
does her thing. And
I've
she's like,
done.
"Mhm."
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was saying she said she's like I really just bring this with me before shows just in case, because
Yeah.
sometimes, and sometimes you're flowing good, and then sometimes you're like, and this has happened to me before. I'm just like, your brain just goes.
No, I get it. And one thing that what I've done in the past there was a theater show that I did, and years ago I tried filming a DVD back in like 2014, and I was not used to doing that much time, and I wrote out a big set list, and in both situations there was a speaker kind of thing, and it was set up to where it was pointed at the stage to where I could put something there and be able to just kind of casually look down and look at it and remind myself if needed. Um, and nobody else would have known the difference. I had a
Mm,
buddy try filming a special, and he taped it to a wall. And after every other joke, he did this. And
oh
after a while,
no,
people were like, how come you keep looking at that wall?" And it's like compared to, why are you looking down? Well, there's only one way to look, either up or down.
yeah, the stage thing was pretty cool because she angled it to where she could just talk to somebody in the crowd, and she just like the crowd couldn't see it, but she could see it. She just looks out of the corner of her eye, and she's just bam, 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 bam. I was like,
And there's another comedian. I don't know if she still does it, but she was a major name back in the 80s and 90s who I know for a fact had the set list taped to the stage as well. So
yeah,
it's people using set lists go back as far as time.
right. Let me ask you this: when you prepare for a big show, do you just bring a set list out there with you, or do you just like, are you confident in like, I know I'm gonna say I'm confident in it?
You know what? I let me see if I have any right here. Before every show, regardless how much time I'm doing, I make a set list to get myself
Oh,
back in the mentality. So every
mm-hmm.
time I do it, um, I don't have it here, but like I'll even for like certain jokes, I don't know if you can tell, but like I'll highlight it here. I got
Oh,
so it's like, okay, these are some new jokes I want to try out. And then what I do now is I just keep them. If it's a comedy club or a theater, I just keep them in my back pocket. Worst case scenario, I forget where I'm at, I take it out. If it's
yeah.
a corporate gig, I just bring a stool and I just drop it on the stool, because at
Cool.
that point it's or a chair or whatever they have, because at that point it's, hey, I'm in a corporation right now. Who cares? I'm
Yeah,
in an office. I'm at a board meeting or whatever. It
yeah.
is
Like you
kind of
said,
a nerve wracking scenario.
right. Okay. I try to memorize everything, but I'm getting to the point now, and this is like I'm getting like, again, I've said one of my opening jokes is, before me and my wife got married, she thought she was on the show 90 Day Fiance, but instead of getting a green card 90 days, she thought she was getting a disabled check, right?
Yeah.
And that kills. See, there you go. See, that fucking kills everywhere I go. But I'm just like, dude, I am so tired of being my opener. You know what I mean? How do you, when you think about writing a set list, do you keep your jokes that are bread and butter, or do you just take a risk on something?
That's a great question. One thing that I've noticed that I do is every once in a while, like you have this opener that just kills, right?
Yeah,
But then you get used to saying it and you start to get bored with it.
that's how I'm
And
getting bored with it.
it's still a killer joke, but now you're bored with it. I know a lot of people say never start off a set with a new joke. I
Mm,
don't necessarily believe that.
really?
I do think you need something there to not make yourself uncomfortable, but you need something to keep yourself fresh. You need something there and then when you get back to that, what was the opening joke,
Mm,
it kills, because okay, we're back into it now, and You get what I mean when I say that. I don't mean I'm going back to that original opening joke. I mean, by the time in my set I get to that joke, I'm saying
Yeah,
it with more confidence because I'm not
you've
starting off
said it
my
a
set.
dozen times.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. One of my buddies that I do shows with, he's like, one thing I try to challenge myself, I just do this at open mics, is I try to create a joke on the fly like that. I haven't done
Yeah.
it in a while, but I used to do that. But one of the favorite taglines I used to say, one of my buddies called me out, he's like, Devin, you used to say all the time, like, he's like, y'all keep drinking because the more people you see up here, the more funnier I am. So y'all keep drinking. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I know. Because I said something like, "Oh, you'll see three little limpy guys up here. Keep drinking." And people are like, "Ah," and then I'll just see like somebody in the back, "Hell yeah, brother!" And he starts chugging. I'm like, "Yeah, good.
Yeah.
You're chugging." And yeah, I used to do that, but now, like I said, the 90-day fiance joke is just my bread and butter, or I call it, my disability check joke.
Yeah.
That's my
And
bread and butter.
I don't know. I know right before we spoke, you mentioned about seeing my dry bar. I don't know if you watched the full thing or if you just saw a clip or two.
I did. Nope, I
Okay.
watched the full thing.
Okay. Well, thank you. My opening joke in dry bar was about having a Batman themed wedding.
I was actually going to ask you
Years.
about that.
Oh yes. Oh, I love talking about it. But the jokes I did not immediately after, but a few minutes later, like I think it was like 6 or 7 minutes later, about where I graduated college and jokes about working and whatnot. Those used to be my openers,
Yeah.
but after a while, it's either I got bored saying it or next thing you know, you're a 30-year-old man bragging about college, and that kind of looks. That kind of looks a little weird. Um, so, so yeah, you do need to change up your opening joke to keep yourself from being bored, because if you're up there and you're bored, you're putting yourself in a hole immediately. Um, but yeah, I mean, dude, I love talking about my Batman wedding.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually one of my questions. But let me ask you this. And this is just, I like to ask comedians this question, okay? Any comedian I meet, right? And especially since you travel a lot. Um, let's say you're in the state of Mississippi. I'm just throwing an example because when I was writing your questions, you gave an example. You did a Mississippi joke, okay?
Right.
Let's say you do a joke in Mississippi and that kills, okay? But then you go to somewhere like Alabama, and you're
Hmm.
using that exact same joke. The joke you're using is not related to Mississippi or anything, but it just kills in Mississippi. But when you go to Alabama, it just bombs. And how do you, as a comedian, when one set list starts doing bad, how do you handle that?
I found that there's multiple ways to think about it. Um,
Okay.
the Seinfeld approach of just stay confident, your material will get you through it.
Mm.
Don't hesitate, or don't start to doubt yourself. The other part of it is, and this is a thing I learned from Patrice O'Neill on Mark Maron's podcast, was if you're bombing, don't panic. Like, don't try to start being funny. If anything, lean
Mm.
into the bomb, because once you start trying to, like, oh no, they don't like me, what am I going to do to make them like me? You've lost control. You've lost power, kind of thing. Take it to the point to where, and I brought this up before, where I was like, some comedians will make the mistake of trying to make you laugh once you guys make us not. Once you guys made the decision you don't like us. I, on the other hand, and this is where Patrice said it amazingly, is if you are going to let me go down, I'm going to bring all of you down with me. And what I've noticed is, with that approach, if I'm bringing you down, eventually at a certain point, it's kind of like like, if you've ever seen like an action movie or something where like the airplane's headed down, but all of a sudden it kind of flattens out and it goes back up. Does it happen perfectly every time? No, but it happens enough to where it's like, no, this is the recipe for success out of bombing, is lean into it a little bit. Like
Okay.
like one thing I'll do is, if I notice like something's not going good, I'll take a couple
Mm.
steps back from the audience. So now I'm back here creating a little bit of a distance, and then each joke I'm saying, I'm now coming a little bit forward, each more and more there. And non-verbally, what that's telling people is, this guy's coming towards us.
Mm.
Like, this guy is he's coming at us right now. And I mean, it's just one of those again, nonverbal things where, as you get reserved, or you start to freak out in the microphone, you're shaking or whatever, the microphone starts to go away. No, maintain your confidence. You're going to get through it, and don't let them tell you if you're a good comedian or not.
Okay. All right. Let me ask you this: what advice would you give to anybody that wants to get into stand up that you wish you had years ago when you first started?
So I every once in a while somebody will ask me this, like a new comic, and I'm going to just
Mm-hmm.
verbatim tell you everything that I tell them. The first step
Mm-hmm.
is to just do it. You have to Google where the open mics are, where to do stand up. You have to get on stage and talk into a microphone and tell people the things that you think are funny. You there's no there's no easy way to do this. And what's also going to suck is that you're going to be doing this for 6 months and you're going to look at people who've been doing it for 2 to 3 years and be like, man, I'm already better than that guy. But what's going to happen is
No.
you're going to be doing it for 2 to 3 years. And then there's somebody who's going to
Oh,
be
my
coming
bad.
along who's been doing it for 6 months or a year that you feel like they're doing it better than you. Your chapter one is not necessarily anyone else's chapter one. This all kind of
Right.
comes along to different people at different times. So first thing you have to do is you have to get on stage. You have to say things into a microphone you think are funny. The next thing you have to write. You have to figure out what your writing process is. You have to write down ideas or use your phone or a laptop. My one buddy has never actually wrote a joke down, which blows my mind because he's absolutely hilarious. He just has it in his head and he just brainstorms and then goes on stage and this is what I thought. How he retains that is mind blowing to me. But that's coming from somebody who has to physically write down every joke with a pen and a pencil or and paper and then take that joke and then put it on a note card and then eventually put that on a set list. So it's just everyone's own process. My second bit of advice, so step A is to get on stage. Step B is to write. Step B2, whatever you want to call it. It's
Yeah.
try to write try to write clean. Not saying you have to be a clean comedian, but there are so many opportunities for clean comedy, and there's even dirty headliners that are just like, hey, I'm about to hit them with an hour of sex jokes. I want somebody clean to go up before me, just to kind of again walk on the place in. It opens up opportunities for things like fundraisers. It opens up opportunities for things like corporates. Clubs also want to see you. They also
Mm-hmm.
want clean openers typically. Um, you know, Being a clean comedian has opened up dry bar comedy. TV shows, like The Late Show, The Tonight Show. You got to have 6 clean TV minutes, kind of thing. So, not
Oh,
saying you have to be a clean comedian. Not saying clean is better than dirty. I'm just saying try to write clean. Um,
right.
and then the other would be, treat um, every show should have a goal. You should be able to take away something from every show. Whether that goal is, hey, I want to try this new joke, or I want to say this joke a little bit differently, or I want to mix up my set list a little bit, or sometimes your goal is just to have a good set. That shouldn't be the main goal every single time. You should be trying to learn. You should be trying to improve yourself. Not just oh, I just want to crush. What's your next thing? I want to crush. I want to crush. Yes, you should want to crush, but that shouldn't be the only goal. Um, and every set, you should be able to take away something from that. Hey, this joke hasn't been working so well. Every time, ever since I switched up the punchline to this, maybe let's go back to that
Mm-hmm.
other punchline. Um, hey, the order actually works better this way. I've noticed in the flow of things, or it if I say this joke here, I can't say this joke here because the punchlines are maybe too similar. But if I say it 5-10 minutes later, it it's might be a callback, it might be something a little bit reminiscent, but you put some space in between there. And then yeah, treat every show like it's an audition. You're auditioning for something. So I wish those were the bits of advice somebody had given me, and now I'm going to add along to it. Um, Invest in a good camera, invest in a good microphone, and record yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because a
Yeah.
good promo video
Well,
is worth your weight in gold.
okay. All right, Dan. Now to stop talking about business, let's talk about some fun stuff here.
Yep.
Really. Ever since her brother died, she's just been a hot mess. But anyways, editing Devin, rip. Anyway, so back to your Batman themed wedding. What Batman were you?
So our Batman wedding incorporated pretty much all of the Batmans. Um,
Oh.
Now you can see the joke. You can see the joke if you just type in Dan Brown Batman wedding. It's going to pop up on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but my wife and I used to belong to an organization called the Superheroes to Kids in Ohio. We would visit kids in like hospitals and things like that. For special events and dressed up as superheroes. I used the Christian Bale Batman suit that my buddy had.
Mm-hmm.
That is like an $1,800 suit that you can actually use for combat. Like it's not if somebody shoots you, you're friggin' dead. But like, you know what I mean? It's not like a $1 million suit like the Bale one. But I mean, it's
Yeah.
legit, and it's like if you have to kick, punch, jump, run, whatever, you can actually do it very freeingly in that suit. Um,
Right.
and we made a video to where my wife was kidnapped by the villains of Gotham, and I had to save her. And the only ones who knew about this video were us and our friends who were in the video. So when it comes time to, for the reception, and everyone's like, they're coming out, and everyone in our bridal party came out to Party Man by Prince. So the old Michael Keaton Joker uh, throwback there.
Yeah, the
And
music
they're like,
video.
for the exactly. No, well, everyone came out to the song, and they all like danced and whatever, had their own, like they had the Bams and Pow signs with them,
Oh,
you know.
nice.
And so for the Adam West nod there, but then the DJ, it was like, for the first time ever, Dan and Tracy Brown, and everyone's clapping, and we're not coming out. For the first time ever, Dan and Tracy Brown, and they clap, and no one's coming out. And his phone rings. He goes, "Hello, Commissioner Gordon. We have a video from the Joker." And we played this video that my buddy Mark Mackay, who is a filmmaker and a great, great friend, um, he was the one that filmed it for us, and he played Robin in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they played this 6 minute long video, and we did a little bit of taking from every one of the Batmans. So um, the Joker was my buddy Hector, and he was more of the Cesar Romero Joker from the '66 series, and he really played it up with the whole big and whatnot. My buddy Brian was the who I got the suit from, the Batman suit. He played Bane, and he wore a muscle suit, which I never understood why, because Brian was actually in the original American Gladiators. And
Really?
he's freaking jacked. Like, I get why, for the presentation, but like he's a
Mm-hmm.
freaking jacked dude. Um, so he was Bane. We had Death Shot. We had the Penguin from the '66 series. We had the different songs going around. At the end of it, the Joker killed Robin, and I held him up like the Death in the Family kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And he was like, go to your get to your wedding, and I just kind of drop him and and run off. Um, but yeah, I mean, so we stole a little bit from every Batman for that wedding.
Okay. So, did you guys? I saw also in your joke you talk about how your parents died. Did your parents do the Bruce Wayne and
So yes, what
Bruce Wayne
happened
parent
was
thing?
we actually had a Batmobile at our reception that people got to take pictures with. It played the '66 theme song, on
Mm-hmm.
repeat, and it would even shoot fire. And in one of the photos, there's me inside the Batmobile with my wife, and my parents are laying on the ground, just right on their back, like flat out, like they just been murdered. So
Oh,
my parents got into the theme as well.
nice. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I was like, I wonder if his parents went out. Dude, that's awesome. That's like me and my wife for our wedding. The only thing we did was the Imperial March from Star Wars. That was like the only thing.
Nice. Well, the
That
one
was
thing
the
I told
only
my wife,
thing.
it was
Huh?
her decision to have a Batman themed wedding. And
Mm-hmm.
she's not nearly as much of a Batman fan as I am. And I kept stressing to her, I was like, is this what you truly want? Like, it's your special day. It's not going to break my heart to not have a Batman themed wedding. And she was like, no, no, like this matter, I want it like this. And my only caveat was, we're throwing a party. Let's throw a party. Let's have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Let's Because nothing sucks more than going to a really classy wedding and a really classy reception, and then the reception's just boring.
Mm-hmm.
It's we had a pretty decent sized wedding. We had 250 people. Let's have a party. Let's have people walking away saying this was the best part. The best party, the best wedding they'd ever been to.
Awesome. I know when I was watching stuff, a Batman fan, I've got, and I can't pull out my collection. I've got the all three volumes of the Nightfall Protocol where Bane breaks his back,
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how Bane's a pretty young villain. I didn't realize he didn't come. I didn't realize he came out in '94.
Yeah, he really hasn't been around for too long. I mean, 21 years. And I mean, you have to think about it in this aspect of, let's say, well, I mean, heck, comic books could have done whatever they wanted back in the 60s. But like, let's say on
Mm-hmm.
the Adam West TV series, how could you have gotten a realistic Bane?
That's fair.
I mean, I mean, really up until Nolan, the Nolan verse. I mean, if you watch Batman and Robin, even that Bane is unrealistic because at that point he was just comically big.
Yeah.
That was clearly CGI. To where when you look at God, who's the name of the guy that played Bane?
Tom Hardy for the Nolan verse.
Tom Hardy. Thank you. Yes, Tom Hardy. It's like, no, this dude's actually jacked, and I can see how somebody can get that jacked and actually be that scary.
Yeah. Oh, hands down. I like the Nolan verse because it's so realistic. It had that, and what made it
Yeah,
popular, it was so realistic.
I
And
see. A lot of people don't like The Dark Knight Rises, and I can admit that there's certainly a lot of faults in that movie. But
mm,
Batman Begins is excellent. The Dark Knight, in my opinion, is the greatest comic book movie ever existing.
oh, hands down.
I mean, it's I forgot where I heard this term, but it's the godfather of comic book films.
Agree. It's just it's phenomenal, man. It's nitty gritty. You didn't know what the first time watching it. You didn't know what Joker was going to do,
Yeah,
and this wasn't. Oh, I'm gonna, throw a pie in your face. It's like, hey, I'm either going to kill you or I'm going to torture you. You didn't know what he's going to do.
and it goes back to that whole, it's all part of the plan. Like if I say a
Mm-hmm.
busload of soldiers are going to go flying off a cliff, no one panics because it's all part of the plan. But if I just insinuate that one mayor will die, everyone's going to lose their mind because nobody knows how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
God,
I
Heath
thought it was
Ledger was such a
beautiful.
great Joker.
Oh, he was
It
so
is,
good.
and I like. I really, yeah, I agree with you. My problem with Dark Knight Rises, like after you watch all three watch all three movies back to back, and you will understand, the flow of the story. But dude, I would have loved a Nightwing or Robin movie set in the Nolan universe. That would have been so cool.
It would have been. It would have been. And you know what? Quite frankly, I'm a fan of the Snyderverse, and I know that might be unpopular. Um,
See,
I'm a
I like the
fan.
Snyderverse too.
Yeah. Well, first off, I don't know if you know this, but Batman vs Superman, the original cut was 4.5 hours.
I did not know that.
So when they put out a 2.5 hour long movie, you're literally cutting out a whole other movie from that. And
Right.
some people are like, well, you shouldn't have to take 4 hours to tell a story. Some stories you have to, quite
Oh, hands
frankly.
down.
And do what they did with Titanic. Put it out in the movie theater, have a brief intermission so people can go up, get up, use the bathroom, buy more snacks, and then come back, sit back down, and watch the rest of the movie. I don't see why that couldn't have happened. They cut so much out of that movie to where it came off as like nonsensical
Mm,
in certain points. But then when you watch that extended cut of the extra 30 minutes, it's like, okay, they're explaining this, 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 and this, which wasn't explained
mm.
in the theatrical version. Then you
I
watch. Go ahead,
Go
man.
ahead.
Sorry. I was
No,
going to
you
say,
go
like,
ahead first.
then you watched the Snyder cut of the Justice League, and I
I have not
literally
yet.
I literally had tears in my eyes watching that because I was like, this was the Justice League movie I've always wanted, and
Mm,
I'm not going to spoil too much for you. Um, I will say that there is a representation of Darkseid in it. Again, don't want to spoil it and how that happens, but
mm.
he's in it multiple times, so
Oh, okay.
take that as you will. The way how I saw it was like, wow, if Steppenwolf's given them this much trouble, what's going to happen when Darkseid comes in? And
See,
sadly,
and
we're
my
never
thing
going to get that
was,
story.
I know, sadly, but my thing is, I was always a fan of Snyder, man. Even with 300, Sin City. Wait, did
Yeah.
he do Sin City? Did he? Okay. Like he could do it. He can do that blend of dark grittiness. Like, here's the thing, and as a comic book fan, I'm so glad they made Batman older. Like, I like what he was doing. He's like, hey, Batman's been doing this for 20 plus years. Like his style, like dude, he was
Yeah.
cracking necks and you know what I mean? And obviously, we didn't see it on screen, but Jason Todd's already been dead.
Yeah.
Nightwing is somewhere,
Yeah.
and it was just so cool. And I love the Ben. I know that's a God. I know when I posted some these get posted on the internet, somebody's gonna be like, "You like Ben Affleck?" But
Hey,
it was
Ben
such a
Affleck's my
different.
favorite actor. I'm
Is he?
saying that right now. Ben Affleck is my favorite actor.
Well, I just like what they did with Batman because it was getting kind of stale, right? We had during this time period, we've already had the whole parents die. On Dark Knight, he's 20 years old, flying around or whatever. Which The Batman, which I'll get to in a second. The Batman is another great film in my opinion, but I
Yeah.
like how Ben Affleck was like, "Hey, I'm Rudy. I don't care. I'm getting the job done."
And that's the thing. So I really wanted this to happen. If I could fantasy book it, it was
Huh?
in Batman vs Superman. I would have had, because that was the first time we saw that metal suit from the Frank Miller series, um,
Yep.
like come out when he fights Superman. I would have had
Which
that
was
been
also
like,
done good.
yeah, it was great, but I would have had like Alfred going, Master Wayne, you're not ready yet. And right as he's about to beat Superman, the suit starts malfunctioning. So we don't actually get a
Ooh.
clear winner. And as the series and as the Snyderverse would go on, that would eventually lead to the Dark Knight Returns series, where
Hmm.
we do get that final fight where Henry Cavill has those genetics to where 15 years from now he's going to look exactly the same. He's still going to look young, and that's
Yeah.
perfect for Superman. And Affleck's already kind of gray in the hair, so 15 years from when that would have started, he would have looked 15 years older. And I love the old man with one last fight stories. I loved
Mm.
Logan,
Oh,
Gran
Logan was so
Torino.
good.
Uh, you know, it, it, I love that. That like the Toby Keith song. I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. And I'm like,
Uh,
if they would have went this path here, Affleck would have been the perfect age to have old man Batman have that one last fight for Superman, and then you could have, had him with, my my foot at your throat. I want you to remember the one man who beats you, and that's how
yeah,
you end the Snyderverse with
that's
that.
pretty good.
I thought that would have been perfect.
What'd you think about? What was your thoughts about the Batman? Because one thing I love about the Batman was it was more detective-y, and I love the detective aspect of it.
Yeah, so that was each Batman. I got my pros and cons.
Uh,
My con with the Snyderverse and the Whedonverse, as it's a, is that Batman was clearly not the world's greatest detective. That was my biggest issue with that.
uh,
Like there were times I'm watching this, I was like, well, Batman would just know like this and that, and it was like and he's caught off guard by like things. Um,
yeah,
I
especially in the
thought
Flash movie.
Yeah, I thought Matt Reeves, the Batman was an
Mm,
excellent source of like, hey, this is the detective we need. And I thought what they did well enough was, so apparently this is the year two story of Batman, I believe. Like he's already been
yeah,
Batman
it
for a
is.
year two. Um,
Yeah,
it's
year
like
one.
okay,
Yeah, they did it.
but yeah, it's so he's been Batman for at least a little bit of time, but he's still new at it. To where it's like, okay,
Mm,
by the time the next Batman comes out, he can get a little grittier, he can get a little bit, hopefully he
yeah,
puts on a little bit of weight and it doesn't look like a child in a Batman suit. That was my one big takeaway. Um,
that's fair. I mean, he's so slim naturally. I don't think he.
I,
I mean, he was doing jujitsu. I don't think he can help it.
I get that. I just, man, I just want, if you're going to be a superhero, like my grandfather was a bodybuilder. Um,
Mm,
and my dad would tell me stories about how he would watch Adam West Batman, and my grandfather would be watching this like, how could that scrawny guy beat up anybody? And at the
there's a
time, nobody
song.
really cared too much, but
Uh,
it's we live in 2025, man. You gotta look like you can beat somebody up.
But at the same, I'm sure I'm so ready for the Batman part two. But I mean, you raise a good point, right? He's been in it for a year or two. He kind of looked anorexic.
Yeah,
Obviously, he's staying up late. Where Alfred and him are having the dialogue, he's like, "Dude, you're staying up too late. You're not sleeping." Like they show more trauma with his death of his parents and the toll of being Batman. The Riddler was so good. I was like, ooh. And I took my wife to go see this when it came out because she's not really a big superhero fan, but she was like, I'll go with you. And I'm sitting in the movie theater trying to solve the riddles, and my wife's like, hey, it's still a lie. And I'm just
yeah,
like, oh. And she'll figure out in 30 seconds, and I'm like, what is it? What is it? What is it? And she just like, it's this. And I'm like,
yeah. I'm so bad at that kind of stuff. That's what got me like so like focused on that movie was like
uh-huh.
the riddles and everything too. So
Well, what was crazy near the final climax of the movie is when he took the Venom serum, when he pulled out of
yeah,
his I like I like the little gobble that was around his wrist where he just clicked something and he had the venom, which foreshadowing Bane, where he took the venom stuff and he just said fuck it, and he
yeah,
needed it. I was like, well, that was cool,
yeah, yeah. I like that
but
too.
but it was just crazy. But I was like, would Batman really do that? I was like, well, Batman's pushed to the limit, but Batman is known to be a good preparer. So I was like, well, he wouldn't. If he ever needed to lift rubble off his body, I could see where he would have Venom in his, tool belt or wrists.
Mm-hmm. To give him
So
that
yeah,
extra push, that extra strength. Absolutely. That makes
yeah,
sense. But that's the main thing. If it can make sense and make sense for the character, I'm for it.
really. I just
Yeah.
honestly, what drove me and me and Kyle were making fun of it during this podcast, and they kept playing the Nirvana song "Sunny in the
Yeah.
Water" every other scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
On this show, me and Kyle kept making fun of it for like weeks, and even in our popcorn bucket movie podcast, we're like "Sunny in the Water." That would kill me too, but that would kill us because every time we would watch it, I'd go back and rewatch it. I'd just be like "Sunny in the Water," and I'm just like, ooh, they overplayed this scene. But I haven't watched The Penguin yet. The Penguin I've heard nothing but good things about, but I'm just like, the Penguin's just a crime lord.
I kind of took a break with superhero related movies and stuff, just because I want to be able to go into Superman this summer and be
Yeah,
kind of refreshed, because I feel like all of us have had superhero movie fatigue and superhero TV show fatigue over the years, where they've just put out so much content, and it's like I'm having a hard time watching anything Marvel without notes. Like, wait, who was this guy? And going back and trying to
yeah,
figure all that
I'm the
crap
same
out. So
way. Well, James Gunn, in my opinion, this is actually, I was going to actually close out with this question. If you could play any hero or villain in the James Gunn universe, who would you pick?
Drax,
Drax?
Drax.
Okay,
That was a
that's a
James
good
Gunn
pick.
film, right? Guardians.
Yeah,
I'm about to say, I believe it was. Yeah, take over. No, you know what? I would be Star Lord, and I would still allow Batista to be Drax, because quite frankly, you're not going to get a better Drax than Batista ever.
that is true. What about, okay, so if you had to audition for his new DCU, okay, what hero or villain
Mm,
would you audition for?
because I don't think I could be a good Batman. I would say either Green Lantern or Red Robin.
Ooh, that's a good one.
What
Oh
about you?
Lord, if Kyle was here, he'd shout for joy because he is such a big Tim Drake fan.
Yep.
And Tim Drake, Lord, I could sit here and talk hours about Tim Drake's origin in the comics, which that he's got a good origin story. Their relationship is a good one,
Yeah.
I'd say. But we'll be here for another
Maybe
2 hours.
Red
We'll
Hood.
talk about
Maybe Red Hood. But
Red Hood.
either Green Lantern, Red Robin, Red Hood. Shit.
All right, Dan. I got one last question for you. I know you've probably been waiting for this one. If you could, who would you take on in a WWE fight? What WWE superstar or legend would you take on in the ring?
Mr. Iguana. Next question. No. Oh God, I can't wait for Mr. Iguana thing to be over. Already.
I know it
Uh,
got overplayed. Like he does one thing at the. I do like how Triple H. Well, I say Triple H. Like how lately WWE lately has been doing pretty good about pushing all these other promotions. Like I haven't watched the World Collide thing with Lucha Underground, not Lucha
yeah.
Underground, Triple A, but I've heard nothing but good things. But God, I'm with you. That iguana thing is everywhere. Like
Well,
dude,
but
he's
it's the flavor of the month right now, and I don't think, from the little bit that I saw, and I am not an expert. Okay,
mm,
so I want to make sure that that's known. I'm not an expert. I'm not trying to be Jim Cornette, and I love corny, but it's one of those things where people enjoy it right now, but it's not going to age very well, and
uh,
people are just going to forget them. Like, it's one thing for how Joe Hendry rose to prominence, but he
mm,
actually has the work behind himself to be like, no, this guy can have a good match. I don't know if Mr. Iguana is actually going to have that. I'm willing to be
yeah.
proven wrong, and I hope I'm proved wrong, because if Mr. Iguana is successful, then that's good for everybody, probably. But if I had to pick one wrestler, I would have a no DQ match where I get as much help as possible to beat up The Rock for ruining WrestleMania 2 years in a row.
Oh, you didn't like him, man. You didn't like
Well,
the
let me rephrase that.
Philadelphia one?
They salvaged Philadelphia excellently,
Okay,
but he almost screwed up WrestleMania completely.
really.
And it's not that I don't think people don't want The Rock versus Roman Reigns. I want Rock versus
Mm,
Roman Reigns. Don't get me wrong. But it's like, hey, you've been building up the Cody story for 2 years. Like, it needs to pay off right now. And if you're a board of
mm,
director, you should you should really want the best things for your show. You shouldn't just want, the just whatever makes you look like the biggest star possible. Because if the whole, think of it like this, The Rock's whole idea was, if I wrestle my mainstream audience, I might get some people from the mainstream audience to watch WrestleMania. That was the whole premise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if that's the case, wrestle R-Truth, wrestle Miz, wrestle LA Knight. It doesn't matter who you wrestle because the
He
people
needs
who
to
are
do,
tuning in are just tuning in to watch you anyway. You don't
dude.
need to
LA
literally
Knight,
derail your whole storyline.
dude. I would love to see The Rock and LA Knight just get into a mic off promo battle because LA Knight is so good on the mic.
Yeah, he is, man. I remember watching him on old HWA back in Cleveland, Ohio. We had a channel that would play Heartland Wrestling Association, which is down in Cincinnati, up
Uh,
on our channel Saturday nights at like 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock or something. And I ended up becoming friends with one of the commentators on the show
uh,
through social media, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to come out to the show? I'll get you guys tickets and everything." I still have to look it up. I keep meaning to look up the card, but in the main event, it was a Falls Count Anywhere match, and I can't think of who the one competitor was, but the other was John Moxley.
no way.
So I watched John Moxley on the Indies have a Falls Count Anywhere match in this tiny little theater with about 30 people in attendance.
Wow,
Yeah,
man. Look, I'm not gonna lie to you. And this is just my opinion. This year's main event of WrestleMania with John Cena and Cody Rhodes, I was disappointed.
yeah. Well, again, it's because The Rock inserted himself into something that he didn't need to insert himself in. You literally could have had Cena turn heel
Mm-hmm.
and had literally any other finish to that match, and it would have been great. The only reason why was Travis Scott even out there?
That's what I'm saying. Me and my wife are scratching our head like, and
And well, you get
go.
excited for it because you're like, okay, the last time we saw Travis Scott, he was with The Rock. So the whole point you're
Mm-hmm.
thinking is, oh wow, maybe we're going to get to see The Rock here. And literally nothing came out. I've said it like this. So night one, the card people viewed as disappointing and kind of lame. And night
Really,
two,
I didn't think it was
well,
disappointing.
uh, I mostly agree, but I think they kind of felt like the card was kind of flat from what I've
Yeah.
noticed. I've said this: if you switched night one and night two's main event around,
Mm-hmm.
so Cena, Cody night one, Rock, Roman, and Punk, I'm sorry, Roman, Rollins,
Rollins
and
and
Punk on night two,
yeah.
everyone would have said night one was probably one of the worst WrestleManias they've ever seen, and night two, everyone would be talking about that was one of the best WrestleManias they've ever had
Mm-hmm.
because Roman, Punk, and Rollins brought it, and
Mm-hmm.
especially the turn, the Heyman double turn, triple turn, whatever you want to call it. Like that was, I
Yeah.
can't even keep track of how many turns there were because he technically turned on Roman to go with Punk, to then turn on Punk to go with Roman, to then turn on Roman to be with
Go back to
Rollins.
Punk. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Oh man.
amazing. And then all those other matches on the card underneath it delivered.
Mm.
So that's again my preference, my opinion. If the Rock's unavailable, I'll take the Hurricane.
Oh yeah, the Hurricane, dude. The Hurricane.
I,
Uh,
I went to school dressed as the Hurricane for Halloween when I was 16.
really
I didn't have the full like superhero thing, but I had the cape, I had the mask, and I had a Hurricane shirt.
nice. When it killed me because he'd have his like Green Lantern tattoo with the emblems.
Hmm.
Anytime he shoots a promo, you just see it on his shoulder blade. I'm like,
Yeah,
um, yeah. But speaking of WrestleMania, I remember because Paul Heyman had that ugly spray tan or whatever,
yeah.
and my wife just looked at me. She goes, "Never trust somebody with a spray tan." Because she'll watch it with me, and she watched all them heel turns, and she's like, "Oh no, the little man's gonna hit him in the dick,"
Yeah.
because that's what he was doing, and we're like, and I'm getting into it because like, um, I won't watch it as religious as I used to, but social media with the clips, I'm like seeing what's going
Yeah.
on to get ready for the pay per views, and my wife's like, "The little man's gonna hit him in the dick," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"No,"
Well, what I
but
loved about it was how Heyman turned on Punk and started crying
mm,
because he didn't want to turn on Punk. But Punk, you put me in this position to turn on you. You made me do this. But when he turned on Roman, it was like this satisfaction where it was like, for 5 years I've taken your BS. For 5 years I've taken your abuse, and now now I can turn on you in the only way I can. And I thought it was great.
well, Dan, that's pretty much all the questions I've got for you. Where can the people find you at home?
Well, if you are on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, I am at xdanbrown. If you are on Facebook and YouTube, I am at Dan Brown Comedy. Um, you can search Dan Brown Comedy in YouTube, and my Dry Bar Comedy special will pop up. The only thing I ask is if you do that, just give it a like and leave a comment saying good job or something like that. Actually, you can leave a comment saying this sucked. It doesn't matter. It just helps the algorithm. Good comments and bad comments do the same thing. I don't care. It's if you're a sports fan, you know who Brian Bosworth is, the guy who he was a controversial football player back in the day. People who liked him loved him. People who hated him absolutely hated him. And he made T-shirts saying "I hate Brian Bosworth" and "Bosworth sucks." Those people bought shirts and all that money went to him. Same thing with Elvis. All those people that wore the "I hate Elvis" stickers and bumper and pins and T-shirts, that was made by Elvis too. So hate him all you want. All that money went right back to him. So I don't care. Be like that. Dan Brown sucks. Still helps. But
Yeah,
yeah, so
that
you can
does
follow
help.
me there. And then I don't know. I depending where your audience is at. In August, I'm going to be at the Underground Laugh Lounge in Niles, Michigan. I'm going to be at the Dickens Parlor Theater in Ocean View, Delaware. In September, I'm going to be at the Funny Stop Comedy Club in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. So go to my website, danbrowncomedy.com, to find out where I'll be.
Awesome. As always, guys, come check me out on my podcast, the More Sports Podcast, the sports podcast for everybody, as well as Popcorn Buckets, where we review a new movie every Sunday. And hey, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Random Incorporated, where you can watch the video version of all the awesome guests we've brought on this show and some original content. And hey, follow us on Instagram as Randall Bucket Boys. And hey, we're on Twitter at Randall Corporate One. And hey, now we're on Blue Sky at the Random Hour. Dan, any last words before I end this?
Thank you for having me. For your listeners, thank you for listening. Have a good day.
All right.